Hello, I'm Angela. Welcome to episode 41 of Living Well Today. Each week, we talk about ways in which we can bring greater, deeper ease and satisfaction into our lives, into the moment by moment experiences that make up the quality of our life. I was just working on something last night that talking about choices, and the small choices that you make can add up to big, big change. It's like the small joys equaling big change. So today's topic is the number one reason why people leave a job, believe it or not. And that is, what do I do if I don't like my boss? What do you do? You know, you may love your work, you may love your job, you may love your coworkers. You might be good with the money and it's commute to work, or it's a remote or hybrid situation, and everything else is lined up except for that one person that happens to be a pretty compelling part of the equation, right? Your quote unquote direct report. What if you're in a family owned business and your boss is a relative? Oh, that's even trickier, right? So we're going to dive a little deeper into that today with some thoughtful suggestions, ideas, tips. I've had some direct experience with this myself. I mean, who on the planet hasn't? Even if you've been a serial entrepreneur or a lifelong entrepreneur, at some point, more than likely, even with a paper route as a small boy, or your babysitting job, right? When you were younger, at some point you've had to be responsible and accountable to someone else in the work that you're doing, that you're exchanging your time, energy, gifts, talents for money, or bartering for different services, whatever it might be. So even if you're not there right now, you've had this experience, I'm sure, where there was someone in your life that you didn't particularly enjoy reporting to, or being or having as a mentor, and you didn't really have a choice. So what are you're at the fork in the road of I like all of these things, right? You've done your Ben Franklin list, and so I'd like to read you a quote that I pulled up. It's from Steve Jobs, and it says, your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And if you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. So if you're in a place of really loving your work, but the person that's overseeing the work, you're not meshing with, or you could actually be in the situation where you love the person that you work for, but you don't love the work. In either case, coming to a place of stasis around this, of peace, and reframing it for yourself, or making a new choice about what to do next, is all important, because of the fact that what you spend a large part of your time and effort in doing in this world has to do with your work in the world. It's one of the 4 quadrants that I address all the time through the Harmony Method. You have your health. That's the most important thing. For without that, there is nothing else. You have your relationships, the very next most important thing. You have your work in the world, and then you have your money, your finances, your abundance. And we're going to talk about prosperity. We've talked about it often. We'll touch on it today. About prosperity means a lot of things. And sometimes making a choice, people most often equate it to the number of dollars that are coming into your bank account in exchange for what you're doing. Your abundance, your prosperity comes to you in many different ways. And you, through this process of taking stock of where you're at with your boss that you're not liking, that you're not enjoying, you may determine that a little bit less dollars equates to a lot more prosperity and abundance. If you reframe what abundance means, if abundance means freedom and ease and satisfaction and contentment, it's those, scales of balance of where you place your values and how you want to spend your life and create the quality of your life. And you are the creator of that. You have active choice all along the way. So I think that's the first step in dealing with a challenging situation with a boss, is realizing you do have control. You have some control. You cannot control that person. You cannot change that person. That's not your job. Your job is to look at yourself and your circumstance and those scales of balance and make new judgments and reframe your thoughts and feelings and beliefs around your work in the world, who you are in that role, and that this may well be temporary. Now, if the boss is the owner of the company, maybe less temporary. But if they're not, reframing and understanding that you have active choice in this situation reclaims your power. So I'm going to walk you quickly through the way in which you would utilize the harmony method in this circumstance. Okay, I don't like my boss. The H of harmony means here and now, the present moment. So you can think about the past maybe, and past altercations, past situations that this boss has crossed boundaries that you're not comfortable with, that you don't appreciate, that you haven't felt regarded in the past, respected, honored, listened to, whatever the hurts may be. Maybe it's a situation where your boss you don't know what boss you're getting that day, because you feel that they are in a place themselves of real imbalance. Okay, so they're projecting some of what you may not know is going on in their personal life or the health of a loved one, or you don't know their circumstance. You really don't know a person's story. Only they do. So realizing I'm going to control my corner of the world, my own garden, and I'm going to do that from the present moment. So how do you do that? You have to get centered. You must realize your power lies in the steadier that you are. The more connected and grounded and clear that you are, the more powerful you are to change your circumstances. So you want to fortify that power. How do you do that? You use your deep breathing, or just breathing in general. Simple breath in, breath out, and being aware of your breath. Do a centering meditation, a grounding meditation. The Calm app, we've talked about this before, is wonderful for it. You can use one of my meditations on my YouTube channel. There are so many out there. If you literally just search a grounding meditation or center myself in my own power meditation, and you'll be offered up lots of free options that you can listen to. So present moment, here and now. Don't think about the past. Do your very best not to project out about what if and all the what if scenarios. That's future thinking. You want to bring yourself right here, right now. In this present moment, are you arguing with your boss? Is your boss in your face? Or that what is really happening right here, right now? So clarify that for yourself. The A is appreciation. Reframe the appreciation that you have for the position that you have right here, right now. That it does do this for you. It affords you to do this. That you appreciate this aspect of it. You appreciate your peers. You appreciate the close drive to home. What are all the things that are going right? That are the bright spots with where you are right now. Okay. One step further, and I can see that this may be difficult to do. but give it a try. What are the things that you appreciate about your boss? Are there some aspects of their talent, their insight, their wisdom, their prosperity, the way they lead their life? Maybe they're fit, and you would like to be more fit. What are aspects of them that are worthy of modeling, that are the bright spots that you can learn to deepen your appreciation around the things that are going right in them and with them? Just give it a try. And this isn't a one-day exercise. These are things that step by step, day by day, week by week, and give it a few weeks and see how things begin to shift. And if you are going through this process for yourself, my promise to you is that your experience of all of it, your resilience, your tolerance, your feelings, your day-to-day satisfaction around it will ease up. Things will ease up. I promise you, this works. This method works. Okay, the R is receive. So part of this is, are you not liking your boss because you don't appreciate the way they speak with you, to you? They speak at you. Do they not hear you, listen to you? So through receive, you want to kind of play through and be open to, are they coming to you in a constructive way about your work and how you might improve? Maybe you, in fact, have missed a few deadlines because you've been distracted or overwhelmed by something else. I believe that more and more in our workplaces and in our homes, total truth and transparency in a mindful way. You want to be mindful of your words and respectful. You don't want to fan the fire. So you want to go about it in as gentle and as a respectful and kind way as you possibly can. But could you ask your boss, I'm feeling like maybe we're not on the same track, and I'd like to help improve that. Could we have a conversation about that? And maybe even ask to step away from the office, away from the boardroom, away from his or her office, away from the cubicle, whatever. And if it's virtual, maybe you could actually, if you work a lot remotely, maybe you could actually, are you in the same city? Could you meet up? And if not, maybe try to pick a time to do a Zoom that might be an off time, or do it over a lunch break and some coffee. And as you enter that conversation, realize that while you can't control what they say, a lot of the tenor and tone of the conversation, 50% of it has to do with you. So all you can do is show up as resourceful and as centered as possible. Power pose. We've gone through this. If you're not sure about it, look it up. Dr. Amy Cuddy, power posing. You take 2 minutes and it lowers your cortisol hormone in your bloodstream and it increases your testosterone hormone in your bloodstream in 2 minutes. And testosterone, of course, is your strength hormone. And cortisol is the stress hormone. You want to reduce that as much as possible. And it will improve your performance. It'll bring you more steadiness and power to the conversation. So you make your physical footprint as big as you possibly can, like a peacock or a Wonder Woman. I call it the Wonder Woman pose or the Superman pose. You do that for 2 minutes before your conversation with your boss. And maybe do it too before you ask the conversation with the boss. And just think about, say the words out loud. Words matter. Words carry energy. They're a reflection of how much in alignment or out of alignment you are on the inside. They're an outer reflection of your inner well-being. So think about what you wish to say. Can you say it with deeper kindness? Can you say it with integrity from your heart? that you sincerely do want to more enjoy your day-to-day work experience, and that you, Mr. Johnson, play a key role in that. And I'd like to find a way that maybe, and maybe I'm imagining it, but I'm going to tell you that I feel that way. And I'd just like to have a conversation with you, see if we couldn't improve it. And now, notwithstanding that you have a real jerk for a boss, most people are going to find that quite reasonable. And most people want to have stasis, and most people want to have working and meaningful communication. And it's more and more in this world that we live in. So we're at a time where I know everything feels quite chaotic more than ever. That is when you get quieter. As there is more and more chaos, don't ratchet up the chaos by feeding the chaos. Actually go 180 degrees from whatever you're seeing and experiencing. Get softer, get quieter, gentler, slower, kinder. And the balance of scales, you're doing what you can to put an antacid tablet into the chaos, to work to smooth that out with smoother, kinder, gentler energy as possible. And if you do have a real jerk for a boss, then, and they're not responsive at all to having a meaningful conversation around taking your level of communication and cooperation to a new level, a more resourceful level, if they're immediately reactionary to that and defensive to that, then that is the time to start taking a look at, is there a different role within the company where that person wouldn't be a direct report to you? And you don't want to just give up on that person or the circumstance. You want to give it multiple tries because you don't know where that person is that day. But there may well come a time that you realize this is not salvageable. And I am going to set boundaries for myself. And I am going to say that this matters to me in my day-to-day well-being, and energy matter to me. And I feel like it's being sapped in a way that it's too leaky of a bucket. I've done my part. I'm doing my part. I'm working on my own harmony. Okay. And the next part of that is the mirroring. It's going to the mirror, literally, and looking at yourself and saying, what in me? This circumstance with this boss is triggering something within me. Either an old memory, something from abandonment, or something when I was a child, or not listened to then, or not respected then, or this is something that's wrapped in with my ex-partner. This is something that's wrapped into an old story that I'm telling myself. It's really going to the mirror and examining, having a conversation with yourself and saying, first and foremost, I forgive you, meaning yourself. I forgive you for maybe some harsh words that I said to that person that ever since then, they've not looked at me or treated me the same way. So I forgive myself. That was a dumb move that I made. And I was poor in my choice of words, and I was hurtful, and I lashed out, and I was unkind and disrespectful, and that's on me. And I accept that responsibility, and I also forgive myself for that circumstance. Okay. Then can you go through an act of forgiveness around your boss? Because I will tell you this. When you forgive yourself and then you go through an act of forgiving that other person for whatever transgression that you felt harmed or were harmed in any way, when you go through the practice of forgiveness, I forgive. I forgive myself. I forgive this person for the words that they said and how it deeply hurt me. I realize that in order to move forward and to prosper, I want to let that go. It's time to let it go. I let it go. I forgive. I forgive myself. You see, it's that over and over. And I am on my way to being more and more resourceful and seeing that person as a teacher in my life for this reason, this purpose, and it's here to serve me. Do you see how different that attitude and mindset and way of being is so much more resourceful for yourself than trying to arm wrestle something, fighting against the current, trying to swim to swim upstream, to row the boat in the opposite direction? That's fighting, that's resistance, and that will get you nowhere except for more resistance. So if you truly do want greater ease and satisfaction and contentment, which I'm guessing is why you gather here, whether it's on live or on replay, whether you are listening to this months from now, or you're with me live each week, you come into this space because you have some kind of desire to better deepen your understanding around your own joy and your choices that bring you that and cultivate that joy within you, that harmony within you for living well. So if you really do truly, sincerely want to live well, this is a big lesson you're going to have to incorporate. This isn't a choice. Forgiveness and accepting your role in that experience, doing the mirror work, getting real with yourself, and really looking at your part of the story and how you want to shift that. It's all vital. It's vitally important. And as you shift that forgiveness, and if you go through that practice and that release of that harm, and you literally send that person love and forgiveness and kindness. You can say it out loud, you can say it to yourself. But as you practice that, watch how the knots around that relationship, the energy in that relationship shifts. Now, it may not go to perfection, whatever you perceive that to be, but it will shift, however small. And small choices lead ultimately to big change. And you can't possibly, by the way, predict all of the change that will come from it. That's not your job. Your job is to be here in the present moment and examine your own inner world and thoughts and actions and words. And ask yourself in the mirror, are my words and actions supporting the kind of person and the type of life I want to be and to have? Because chances are, if you are not experiencing the kind of life at work with your boss that you want to have, is that there's something in the stories and in the actions and the words that are creating more resistance within you around it. Notwithstanding if the guy or the gal is a real, true, impenetrable, someone who just simply spews a lot of toxic energy. Well, that but I think more times than not, that is the exception than the rule. I think it's more often, I just don't like the person. I don't like their habits. I don't like how they talk. I don't like their pace. They make me nervous, right? There's something about them that's off-putting. So control what you can control. Take a look in the mirror and own your own story and your choices in crafting a better story. The next one is ownership. We just kind of covered that. They kind of go hand in hand. The very next one is the N in the harmony method, and that is nature. And any one of these, by the way, in the harmony method, you could literally put to the very beginning. You could jumble up these letters, and they all still work in and of themselves. It happens to be that the way that I've placed them works really well for me, and I've seen it work well for others. So these are based on universal principles, okay? Constructed in a way that is meaningful for me, and I'm finding for others as well. So the N is nature, putting yourself out in that positive energy. Now, some might say, well, we're swimming in a toxic soup out in nature with chemtrails and with, you name it, you can say, but that's the world we live in. So you make a contract with your body and your heart and your blood and your brain, and you say, this is the world we're living in. I'm not going to walk in this world in fear, because fear actually creates more damage in your bloodstream and your brain than whatever things that man can make outside of you. So, so keeping that in check and in balance and staying in your power is vitally more healthy for you than to walk and consume all of the media and the content that tells you to be afraid. So walk in nature, take your shoes off, walk on the earth. I'm going to do this today because I have felt a little bit ungrounded in the last few days. And just listen to the birds, walk by the stream, listen to the trees, soak up the energy of the wisdom of the trees, who have an unbelievable communication network that we're learning more and more about too, the language of trees, the language of flowers, the language of nature. And you tap into that. It's so powerful. And as you do, you become looser, easier, more open. And as you do, all the things we've talked about to this point become that much easier to manage and to work with, to balance, to recognize, and then to shift. The E of the Harmony Method is enough. I have enough time to finish this project. I have enough time to make better decisions about this relationship with this boss. I have enough tools. I am enough to do this. And I'm going to use power posing. I'm going to use the power of nature, the present moment, being more mindful, the self-talk that I do, the words that I choose, all of that. I'm going to step by step, tiny bit by tiny bit, move in a more powerful, positive direction. And as I do that, watch all of my relationships shift. The relationship with yourself will shift the relationship with your boss. Even if the boss doesn't change an ounce, which often they do, just merely by the impact of your more positive energy and you coming to that space in a more resourceful way creates a space of change more naturally. But if they don't, if they never change, you changing shifts the experience of how it affects your life in the day to day. So I am enough. I have enough. There's enough time. I am enough. I have enough courage. I have enough smarts to do this, to be this, that which I want to be and experience. And then the why, the yield, the surrender. This comes back to the arm wrestling match. You're not going to win an arm wrestling match against your boss. Your boss is the boss for a reason. Okay? They wear that badge, not you. So if you want to stay in your role, if you want to stay in your position, okay, which means for right now, that person is two, and that's the dynamic that the two of you are going to have, then you must, if you want to stay there, you can't change that person. You can only change yourself. And it begins by going through these simple steps that we've talked about. And remember, there's so many stories of the person that is the bus driver or the waiter or the janitor or the emergency room worker that works, insane hours, that should never have to work that many hours, of how they find joy in their work. So it's not the work and it's not the boss. It's you. And if you have crossed that bridge and you are crossing that bridge and you're working through this and you're realizing other things are prospering, other areas of your life are shifting, you can feel it bit by bit. And it's almost always easier to do in hindsight as you look back at what's changed, right? And journaling, by the way, is a super helpful tool in this because you can go back and you can look and you can see, how far have I come? Wow, that was my thinking that day. And now look, I started this one thing out. It's a really cool tool. I started using this tool for myself many years ago, and I've talked about it often. And it's putting a number on your day. So I realized that when I started, a mentor of mine said, what kind of day are you having? Give it a number. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being just the crappiest day ever, and 10 being like a phenomenal day, a 5-star day, a 10 of a day. put a number on it. I had a lot of 4s and 5s. And I had never codified it that way. Just kind of had this general sense of dissatisfaction in my day to day. And then as I started codifying it and putting a number on it, and saying, well, would you like to change that? Would you sincerely like to have more 6s? Maybe a 7 once in a while. I couldn't even at that point, I couldn't think about 10s. Like it didn't. And then one day after maybe a few weeks of doing it, he asked me, he said, well, what would a 10-day look like? Because you can't create what you can't imagine. What your brain can't imagine, you can't create. So you have to allow your imagination to do that work for you, to do that exercise before you get there. And it's the only way to get there. So what could a 10 look like? Well, could look like this. You write it down. What can a 10 of a day with your boss look like and feel like? What would you would feel heard? Well, what does that sound like? You offer an idea and they say what? What would they say back to you? For you to really feel heard and appreciated for your idea, what would that feel like to you? What would need to be said? Write it down. I want to hear my boss say to me, way to go. This is awesome, Angela. Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah. Come to me again when you have another idea like this. This is a 10. Okay. What is it? Or maybe it's something less than that. You just want a little bit of love, right? And attention and appreciation. So start to codify that. And then each day, did you have a 6? Did you have a 7? Maybe you had an 8. And you will see over time, this works. Over time. It may be 3 months, 6 months. You'll look back and you'll see in your journal or on your iPad or wherever your notes, wherever you kept it, you are having a lot more 7s and 8s. You even had a 10. Wow. Wow. And it's an effective tool that you might want to consider adopting and giving it a try. And again, maybe it'll work really fast for you. Within a few days, you'll start to see a shift. I know the appreciation exercise of walking through and appreciating everything that's around you and the blessings that you have in your life, that you feel better instantly. That's an exercise you feel better instantly. The here and now and the breathing. If you want to increase your energy in the morning, you do inhale on the breath for 6 counts, exhale 3. Inhale long, take big, long 6-beat breath, exhale 3. Exhale it fast. In slowly, exhale it fast. That amps your energy up. That gets the currents in your body flowing more readily. At the end of the day, or in an anxious moment, or if you're getting ready to go into an important, conversation, a compelling conversation, then you want to maybe slow down your heartbeat a little bit. And therefore you would reverse it. And you would do in 3 breaths, slow exhale 6 breaths on 6 beats. In on 3, out on 6. That automatically shifts you. You feel that. You feel a release and a dropping, a slowing down of the energy when you do that. I shared power posing with you. That's super helpful. Your mirror work, spending time in nature. You hear the themes week after week. Is that harmonizing your life and work and with a boss always begins with you, and that you do have active choice, and that in those small choices, how you think about your day, how you go about your day, and the words and the stories that you're telling yourself about your day and the people in your life, it all adds up to a bigger, better day, a 10 of a day. So here's wishing you lots of tens, friends, for living well. Today, I'm Angela. Please share this with people you think could benefit from this. And every week, this week was pre-recorded, but every week I'm usually live at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we're always talking matters of creating joy, well-being in lots of ways that shows up in your life and in your work and in your bank accounts for living well today. So I hope I see you again. And in the meantime, much love and blessings to you and yours always and evermore.